Hey everyone! In today's tutorial, I'm going to do an update to what I consider kind of a throwback technique, and that is the shaving cream technique. This is one of the first techniques that I learned when I started stamping, and I thought it was such a wow. But then it sort of seemed old-fashioned, like everybody had already done it, and so everybody kind of moved on from it. But I discovered that it's really, really fun and updated and modern if you use it with stencils. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that today. You'll want to have a paper plate, an old gift card, some foam shaving cream. Do not get the gel. That won't work. And the gift card is very important. This is a Whole Foods gift card. Those are the most important kinds. And be sure and shake the can a little bit so that you get a good foam out of there. I always put too much down. So be sparing. You really don't need very much because you're just using the top layer for this technique. Then you'll want to spread it around with the side of the gift card. And my apologies to any people who are professional bakers, know how to frost a cake, that kind of thing. It's not really my spiritual gift. But you want to do this sort of like you're frosting a cake, except you're not me and you're good at it, because you want a smooth surface on the top of your shaving cream. And you will definitely want a roll of paper towels nearby. You're going to be cleaning this gift card quite a bit during this technique. Now you'll want to take water-based dye reinkers. I'm using Stampin' Up! Reinkers. This one is Tempting Turquoise. I bet you know which ones I'm going to use. Melon Mambo. And crushed curry. You can also use Daffodil Delight. Daffodil Delight is actually a little bit brighter, and I think it looks great with this technique. Now I just have like an orange stick here from Jamberry or from a manicure set. And you want to drag it through the ink so that the ink starts to spread out and make patterns. But you don't want to overmix it because you don't want it to become muddy. So you just want sort of marbling lines in the shaving cream. Now in the old technique, at this point, you would just put your paper down on here, but we're going to do something different. So make sure your gift card is good and clean. And you'll want to put down a piece of white cardstock. This is Whisper White. And I have a Hero Arts stencil here. I'll link you to all this in my blog post. And you want to pick up just a very thin layer of the part with the ink on it with your gift card. As soon as you touch the shaving cream with the ink to the cardstock, it bonds with it. And so you'll want to preserve that pattern, and that's why you're kind of careful when you're scooping it up. Then you'll just apply it to the stencil, just scraping it down the stencil. Now, the more you scrape and the more ink you apply, the more sort of homogeneous the ink look will be. So if you want to just apply stripes, I'm going to show you a couple different ways to get a few different looks here. But I'm going to remove the stencil, and you'll see that it's very crisp underneath the stencil. And you want to make sure you're scraping all the extra off. Now you'll see when I'm scraping the additional shaving cream off, how much more vibrant the colors underneath become. There is a little foam residue. Now I'm doing this right away. So I'm going to show you two different ways to do this. When you do it right away, you might drag a little bit more ink across the image, and so you won't have as crisp an image. You'll get sort of more an atmospheric effect, and you'll see that on this sample much more so. This one I wanted to do for an art journal page. So I have a little stencil of these silhouettes of people. And I'm adding some more ink and shaving cream. This stencil is a little bit thicker, actually a lot thicker plastic. It's a little harder to work the shaving cream in there, so I'm having to work at it a little bit. That also means that there's going to be more shaving cream left on the card when I lift the stencil. And so I will get a more atmospheric effect if I scrape it while the shaving cream is still wet. And that's what I wanted to do for this art journal page. Because right here it's really crisp and it looks great. but I wanted it to look more, the only word I can think of is atmospheric. I'm sorry, I've said that 3 times. So, but anyway, I wanted the ink to sort of come off the image and not have it be so crisp, because to me that looks more fitting for my art journal. So I'm just scraping that off, and once you've done that, it's really dry and it's finished. Now, if you don't have a stencil, you can always use a die to cut out a piece of transparency, stencil plastic, or even packaging and make your own stencil for this technique. This is actually an old Stampin' Up! Used to sell these stencils with these different shapes. I think this is a Stampin' Up! One. I don't have this one labeled, but I'm almost positive I got this from Stampin' Up! Like eons ago. And it's just a really pretty leaf. And since I'm doing this during Fall-a-Day Fest at Split Coast, I thought it would be fun to do some colorful fall leaves. And again, I want this one to be smeary, so I'm going to go ahead and scrape it right away. And the bonus is your room smells really, really good while you're doing this. I'm going to do another leaf, and I'm going to leave this one a little bit more crisp. These are fun colors. I love having that little pop of aqua with more fall-ish colors, which the crushed curry is more of a fall color. And again, scrape off when you think you're done applying ink, be sure and scrape off all the excess of the shaving cream, because that'll give you the best results if you want to scrape it right away instead of sitting it out to dry. Now, this is one of my favorite stencils. I'll put a link to this in the blog post. This is the one I first did this technique with, and I just love it so much. It looks like little bubbles. And you'll see that I'm going down, up and down, and then across, and you can actually get plaids this way, which I think is really fun. I was inspired by the Lawn Fawn plaid papers to do this technique. And even though the stencil is really, really detailed, look how crisp the results are when you do this. We did this at my retreat, and I couldn't believe some of the detailed stencils that people brought that just looked absolutely perfect with this technique. So as long as you're just scraping it and being real careful, it won't get under the stencil, and you're going to get a perfect tie-dye sort of result that I don't know if you could get with applying ink another way. Now, in this one, I wanted a more blended look. So I am picking up certain colors that I want, selective colors, and going back over some spots. I wanted a lot of red. But in general, I'm going over it many, many times. And so what that means is I'm going to get more of a wash of color than I am going to get some of those interesting stripes and more contrast. But again, scrape it, clean your card. Scrape it all the way off, and you'll really be happy with the results if you make sure most of the shaving cream is off when you lift this stencil. And you can see that one is crisp and perfect. Now, after you're done, if you just let these air dry, if you let the crisp ones air dry, you'll want to go back and burnish that with a paper towel. That'll remove any foam residue, even though most of it evaporates. There will be a little coating of it. And once you burnish it with a paper towel, the colors will get really vivid again. So don't skip that step if you're just pulling the stencil off and letting it dry and not getting that kind of atmospheric look that I did. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks so much for watching.